Welcome everyone to Bloomeranga's podcast. I'm very excited to introduce you today with Lina Žemaitytė-Kirkman, who is the head of Rocket. And Rocket is a startup and innovation center here in Lithuania. So today we will talk on the topic that I think is very, very relevant these days. Is about digital well-being and how does that affect our creativity. So these days, a lot of us are spending so much time in front of the monitors, on the computer, on the phone, on tablets, and there is that fatigue, right, that we all experience. So how do you manage that and still stay creative, fresh, and innovative? So welcome, Lina. I'm very excited to have you with us today.
And hi, everyone. Such a pleasure really to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Pleasure's ours. So maybe before we dive into the topic of digital well-being, would be interesting to hear a little bit of your perspective in how did you sort of start thinking about this and where did this emerge in general, since you're working with startups where innovation and creativity is so important. So can you give us a little bit of context?
Sure. As you mentioned, so at the moment I'm heading up this Startup and Innovation Center. I've been working here for more than 4 years. So it's a very dynamic and fast moving and definitely technology driven environment. And I have had in my life all the roles that are technology driven. One could argue all roles these days are technology roles, right? Especially if you're a knowledge worker, you will be working using technology. If you're not creating, using technology, right? So it's always like that. But it's important to know that sort of by education, I am actually a psychologist, a business psychologist, but I've been working in always this tech heavy environments. So these sort of two things, my education and my general interest of psychology, even though after graduating, I never went and worked onto the counseling, but the interest has always been there. And this technology driven world that we live in, for me, beautifully it's a marriage of these two things in the topic of the digital well-being. And I've been in this topic since 2017. When I think I had my very first login speech about why we are so addictive to our smartphones. So that's 2017. It was just a very sort of shocking topic, really, to talk about it. And now we talk about it all the time because we feel it, we normalize it. But back then it was very new. And since then, I have actually graduated. I am officially certified digital well-being coach. It's a niche qualification on the psychology and the neuroscience, specifically in the realm of how technology, and especially the use of it, not technology itself, but the way we use it, affects our attention, our creativity, our relationships, our mental health, and overall well-being. And that's where the digital well-being topic comes in. So I do, when I say I work in this topic, that means I usually speak about it. I'm invited to the conferences. Sometimes I'm invited also to organizations to talk about, the importance of attention and how to be more productive, especially if you're working in a hybrid environment and you're always in front of the screen. So I kind of sometimes like to joke that in the daytime, I'm helping the Lithuanian startup ecosystem grow. And in the nighttime, I have this Batman type of job where I go and save the world from the
Love that.
bad habits of bad digital habits.
I can totally see you as a Batmaness.
Worn the mask, yeah, for the effect.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So I guess you're yourself juggling the
Absolutely.
technology life, right? And you're learning to stay
Yeah, and I
sane,
witness
right?
people, and I witness people every day. So many creative, innovative people around me. There is the saying that if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So working here, I'm definitely in the very, very right room because there's so many people who are way smarter than I would ever be. And I can see how the topic of the creativity is so important for all of us. When people hear creativity, they think maybe arts, maybe, maybe in business, okay,
Right,
marketing,
exactly.
advertisement. But really, it's even finding unusual solution to a business problem could be a creativity as well. And I also see how people in this fast pace, and you won't see I think, faster paced than it is in the startup world. How really there's just going in the high speed and how to manage to stay sort of fluid and creative when you running 100 miles an hour at the same time. So everything I talk about, I either experience myself or I witness it at very, very closely.
Yes, I love that. I love that you touched the base of creativity, that it's not just visuals or artsy things, and exactly wanted to explore with you this other angle of creativity, because when you are developing a new company and you're in a fast-paced mode, you need to be always right, kind of on the ground, but at the same time looking ahead and finding solutions to problems that constantly emerge. So it's a very different kind of creativity, right? So from your experience, what would be those most important things that a creator or entrepreneur should keep in mind, so not to get overwhelmed by the digital life and to keep that sanity going?
Okay, so I think before I answer this question, is quite I think it's quite important to unpack and maybe touch a little bit on the reality we live in, right? So we're all on the same page, and I think that we all know that we are really living in the, up till now it was the attention economy, where our attention is monetized. All the apps, websites, and other platforms basically are geared towards one thing only, which is called customer engagement or user engagement. That engagement translates into the time spent on platforms, apps, etc. And basically, that is the only sort of KPI that the companies have, right? To have your time, because the more time you spend, the more data can be collected about you, and then the more targeted the advertising could be shown. And the brightest minds on the planet work towards it, and it works really, really well. And we all have experienced how well it works, where you think that you haven't even spoken to anyone about anything. You thought about something, and then a few days later you see an ad for that. So that's how well algorithms know that. It's not that phones listen to us, or there is some sort of big brother watching, although it could feel like that. It just shows how well the algorithms work, that from our sort of cookie crumbs that we leave all around the internet through our engagement, can make such a good persona out of us that knows us better than we do sometimes. And there have been stories that women have started seeing advertisement for babies or pregnancies before they even knew themselves that they are pregnant. So this is the attention economy.
Yeah,
And
it's a good
obviously with
one.
AI, we're now talking about the economy of affection, where it's not the attention, but it's actually the relationship is monetized, and that can be created through the dependency on chatbots, the large language models, that can create a persona that becomes your friend, your assistant, your lover, whatever. And yeah, so this is the world we sort of live in. And that's what affects sort of our brain, because what's important to know from the neuroscience perspective is that our brain is plastic, which means that it's very moldable. It basically adapts to whatever we do. If we go to the gym and we lift weights, our muscles grow. If we do something, it's the same for our brain. Whatever we do, we train our brain to do it better. Right. So there is this saying in the neuroscience: the neurons that fire together wire together. That means if you do something repeatedly, your brain automates it. So it automates for a few reasons. So you become more efficient, and the brain becomes more efficient, so it doesn't use so much energy all the time. The perfect example of it that we all have experienced, that is driving. Try to remember yourself when you started learning to drive, where you have to think about everything. It was such a stressful experience, really cognitively demanding. And, if you've been driving for 20 years, like I have, you sometimes don't even realize how you got from A to B, because you so do it on autopilot almost.
Right. So that's how the habits are built as well,
That
right? Based
correctly
on the
is,
same.
yes. So if we're living in the attention economy, where all the platforms are trying to get our attention, and usually that comes with the interruptions, apps, dings, notifications, and there's lots of infinitive scroll and all the autoplays and all the other little things. Reels is a big thing, right? The small little videos that really hook you on and shows you the things you want to see. So what that we really training our brain day in, day out by using this. So first of all, we have trained all of us. I would say absolutely all of us, we've trained to be interrupted. So that means that even if we're not interrupted from outside, let's say I switch off my computer, I switch off my phone, because my brain's already trained to be interrupted, it starts interrupting itself. And you can feel that, for example, people say, I'm not able to read a book anymore. I read a few pages and I start looking for something, maybe check my phone, maybe start feeling
Yeah,
a bit
very
jittery.
much.
So this is basically just this training in action, right? So because our brain is plastic in that sense that it's very moldable and adapt. So we adapt to interrupt ourselves all the time. We also adapted ourselves to consume very short and brief content. Everything's longer, deeper. It's really difficult for us now. I always joke that the true torture for the modern man would be to show like an old school Lithuanian film, long frames, nothing's happening, that sort of thing. So it would be
Yeah,
just
very
really torture.
poetic, but
Very poetic, but too much of poetry. And there is actually research by Gloria Mark. She's been researching attention for many years. And her latest, and she's very famous in the attention research because she was the first that went out into the knowledge workers' offices and watched people in their natural habitat, if so to speak, rather than inviting them into laboratory. And she says when we work on screens, we switch our attention every 47 seconds. 47 seconds. That means we keep our attention on one thing less than a minute until we check an email, check the phone, switch between tabs, switch between documents, and we change context every 10 minutes. So I might be switching between tabs and documents on the same topic, but then I might in 10 minutes go completely different topic. And then usually it takes about 23 minutes for us to come back to the original topic, both in the terms that we usually go down some sort of rabbit hole for the topics, but also because to get into the flow, to get deeper into the topic does take time. And it does take about 25 minutes for our brain to sort of start concentrating. This all creates the sort of, we always on the surface, we always running around on the surface, lots of things all the time, shifting our attention, that already I'm talking about it and I'm tired. It does not create the feeling of freshness, right?
right.
We
No,
always
it's
consume
overwhelmed.
information. So I think for creativity and for attention for anything, if I like usually food analogies because people understand that very well because we all eat every day. So
Hi guys, I just wanted to send a quick reminder that we have just launched a new subscription, and if you are looking to unlock creativity in a variety of formats, get access to our digital tools and online creative sessions, check us out. I hope I'll see you inside.
there is time to eat and there's time to digest. What happens in this sort of attention economy and online world, we don't have time to digest because we always snack. We eat small amounts, but we
That's
always
very
are
well
eating.
said.
So we
Right.
always constantly snacking and there's not really time for us to digest. And the time to digest is very, very important. And I'll tell what is in brain terms, what is digesting. But the time when the digestion happens is the time for creativity, is the time for the new ideas to emerge. It's the time for the answers to the problem solvers to come. It's the time for the information that we learned actually to go into the long-term memory in our brain from the short-term memory. So basically, it's the time for those. You know how they say creativity is connecting the dots, but to connect the dots, you have to have the dots in the first place. So if
Right.
you learn something, for them to go in the long-term memory where you can pull them out and connect them, you need that digestion time. So you need time to digest. I have listened actually to the interview of one creative woman, and I can't remember the name of her, but she's the Hollywood creative star. Her name is behind the really big blockbuster movies. And she said that this incubation, this digesting time, she has 2 days, right? So you work, you digest, you get a lot of information, you think, and then you just leave it. You withdraw yourself
Yes.
from the thing for at least 2 days, and then your brain starts doing the work. So what is digestion for our brain? Digestion for our brain is the things that we usually don't have it these days. It's the idle time. It's the time when our brain can go into this default mode network. So default mode network is the state of our brain where it's sort of almost light meditative state, where it's not concentrating on anything in particular. Chris Bailey, the author of the hyperfocus, in his book calls it scattered focus. Sort of very loose focus. You're not focusing on any in particular. So it might be when you're daydreaming, when you're not bored, perhaps, right? It's just idle time. So this is the time when our brain does that heavy lifting of digesting, sorting the information, putting it where it's supposed to be, starting to connect the dots, working in the background. This is super important for our brain, but we don't have it nowadays anymore because we don't have the idle time. So I think this is a good time to sing some praises for boredom, because boredom is very important for creativity, because it is the time for digesting. It also, again, to talk about the boredom, I'll step one step back and just explain what happens from the neuroscience perspective. And if there's any neuroscientist listening to this, they're possibly rolling their eyes because I'm just going to simplify very, very much for the simplification of what happens. So when you're bored, there's sort of two areas in your brain light up. The first one is the area that is connected with all the unpleasant emotions. It could be fear or disgust or something, because boredom is not a pleasant emotion for us. In relation to that, and we usually want to get out of unpleasant emotions, right? So it's not a pleasant emotion. So then our prefrontal cortex, which is this forward goal-orientated, action-orientated thinking part, lights up because it says, okay, this is unpleasant. This is not a nice situation. We need to figure out how to get out of it. And usually to get out of boredom, we start looking for stimuli. From evolutionary point of view, this is very good for us because if we're looking for stimuli, we're likely to find new food sources, maybe new mates, maybe new lands, maybe something that is useful for our survival, right? But if there is no very clear external stimuli, then we start looking into ourselves for stimuli within ourselves. And this is where the daydreaming starts. This is where the mastery goals and the planning for a goal starts. We start thinking, and what do I want to do? Who do I want to become? What kind of person I want to do? What my life's going to look like in 10 years? And then suddenly those dots start connecting because we start looking for the stimulation within ourselves. So that's really good to be bored because our brain starts looking what to create out of this boredom to get out of this boredom.
Right.
Now, I don't know when that was the last time you were bored or idle, because usually because we have a smartphone and we're bored, it's very easy to escape that feeling by going and watching few funny reels or, the algorithm is beautiful.
And you're still in the consumption mode then, right?
Exactly. My Instagram, is pretty much impossible for me to spend just 5 minutes there because it's the candy store for my brain. I get to see everything I really like and everything really interests me. So it's very stimulating, small hits of dopamine, and I want to have more candy, more candy. It's like having like a jelly bean. So I'm taking one after the other until the whole pack's gone. So I'm still in the consuming mode. I'm still consuming. There's no idleness. I mentioned before that for the creative ideas, we need to have memories and to store the information in the long-term memory. And there is plenty of research that shows that even while we're learning something, for example, if I listen to this podcast and I scroll on my phone, or I'm trying to read a book or an article or anything else, and I have, for example, TV in the background or anything else that catches my attention, actual information goes to the wrong part of the brain and never travels to the I want to say long distance, but the long term never travels to the long-term memory. So that means we never remember things. And also people do talk about digital amnesia, saying, I kind of don't remember things anymore. I know where to find them if I need them. We kind of started remembering where to find things, but I don't remember them myself. And again, for new creative ideas to pop up, that is a problem. This is becoming, people might feel less attentive and less creative. And you get to hear, people talk about exhaustion at work or overwhelmed or, brain fog as well, sort of this digital overwhelm. And I think it's all to do with the habits. I don't think that our brain lost the capacity to be creative or lost the capacity to be attentive. There are research that shows that if you put ourselves in the right environment and train a little bit for it, because remember I said brain's plastic. If we trained ourselves to be interacted and scattered, we actually retrain ourselves back to be focused and sort of to have
Goal
these moments of
oriented.
the default mode network. We can untrain that as well. But it's just that the conditions that we are in every day and sort of we put ourselves in every day is really not helping. So that's where the digital well-being and the good digital habits come to mind. And I like to call it sort of digital hygiene, because it's usually just very simple
Nice.
rules, like basic things. But the basics work if you work the basics. And it's
Yes.
like washing hands. It's like washing hands. It's such a simple act, but if you do wash your hands, you can prevent a lot of horrible and nasty diseases
Bacteria. Yeah,
just by
yeah,
washing
yeah.
hands. So the same, this digital hygiene that I talk about, really simple things that you do in every single day, and you make sure you do them until they become a habit, like washing hands, can really prevent a lot of nasty things happening with mental health.
This is very interesting. So let's talk about that. Like, what are those digital hygiene things that creative or anyone really who wants to stay fresh and upbeat, right, should keep in mind?
Okay. So, sort of digital well-being in practice, I think it's sort of 3 steps. So, first of all is awareness, right? So, this is where a lot of my work is, to talk about this brain fog, exhaustion, not being able to concentrate, not being able to come up with any ideas, hoping that AI tools will come up with something for you because you don't feel like you have any capacity or brain power to do any of that. Awareness. When you understand what's happening and why it's happening, then you can start creating some boundaries. And the most important thing is, I think, the designing of our environment. So we need to be the designers of our environment and don't take the technology preset, something that comes by default. Before, it used to be like a simple thing. Now it's updated, but I remember 10 years ago I used to say, why our meetings are half an hour or an hour? All our meetings are an hour or half an hour. Why? Because it's a preset on our calendars. And then you suddenly have
Yeah, you
back-to-back
can change
meetings,
it.
each is an hour, and there's no breaks in between. Uh, is it really the best way for our brain to work? Not really. But why we do it? Because it's a preset. So I think being aware and changing your environment can really solve a lot of problems. And the environment is super important. And there is maybe a little unrelated, but I do like quoting this story. I read that story in actually the book of James Clear, The Atomic Habits, about the American Vietnam War
Right, the
veterans.
popular book.
Yeah, and the Vietnam War veterans. I'll possibly have to wave soon because the lights are going. The majority of them were addicted to heroin while they were in the Vietnam. And the big worry was what's going to happen to all these men who are going to come back home and they're going to be heroin addicts. But what surprised the medical profession, but also the psychologist, is that majority of those men, when they came back home, they stopped being addicts because the environment changed. The clues have changed, the stressors have changed, the possibly the supply of the drug has changed. And just the change of the environment cured. There's nothing else that had need to be done. So I'm thinking, if the environment change can help such a big problem like drug addiction, then it is definitely reassuring that it can change everything else. So
True.
talking about then the environment again, hand washing, simple things. This is what all I'm saying is backed by research. It's not my personal opinion. It's actually done by peer-reviewed research, really legit scientific stuff. We should not really have more than 4 or 5 meetings a day, because anything after that is just, we participate, but we don't. I
We
mean,
are numb.
participate in body, but we don't
Yeah,
participate in our, or we don't contribute anything.
right.
I cannot stress the importance of breaks between the meetings, which a lot of people do not have. And the breaks are important for a few things. First of all, for the thing that's called in psychology the attention residue. That means when we are in the topic and we carry on to and we go into another topic, we carry in our head some of the information from the previous topic. So in the world of meetings, it could be, for example, that I have a work meeting with you or a business meeting or whatever. And usually meetings finish with things to follow up, things to look up, answers to answers to the questions, and some sort of to-do list. If I did not have a break to write all of these things down and to park it somewhere out of my brain onto my calendar, onto paper, onto wherever I keep this information, then I will carry that information with me. And you can think of the cognitive power as sort of a pie chart.
Mhm.
And if I'm part, one slice of pie is with a meeting number 1, second slice of pie is meeting number 2, meeting number 3. That means that I come in the meeting number 4, maybe only with a half pie of my cognitive ability to be here and
True.
now, to think, to solve, to create, to come with the answers on the spot, because a lot of things, my attentional residue is with other things that I did not park, or my brain did not have time to sort itself out and to digest it because I didn't give it a break. So, well, again, we're coming to that analog of eating and digesting. So it's important to give time for our brain to digest. So it's breaks between the meetings. It's sort of parking the ideas, the questions, putting it out of your brain, and giving yourself to sort of reset so you can change the topic and go on to the another topic and feel fresh. We all know that we
Right.
can go on without breaks. We've all done that before. But it is, the cost is the feeling of freshness. Do you feel fresh, or you feel a bit depleted and at the end of the day it's like, man, I haven't done much, but I have no energy left for anything else. So that's the feeling. Basically, that's the cost of not having that 10-minute break that could have really saved the freshness. And also, definitely, we do forget that we are not brain on the stick. Brain's what only a few % of our body, and the rest of the body has needs too, and that need is definitely movement and going outside. We spend too much time indoors. I talked before a little bit about the scattered focus and this default mode network. There is art theory. Art stands for attention restoration theory, that says that the best way to get ourselves in this scattered focus, soft fascination, default mode network is actually being in the nature. So a walk
Right.
in the nature will do that to us, but the walk on the street in the city won't. Because in the
Right.
city, we do have too much stimuli going on from everywhere and all the noises. You don't get that soft fascination, scattered focus, softness, giving the time to breathe. So I am all up for walking in the green areas, preferably without a podcast in your ears,
Yeah, it's a good one.
just to get that to get that, giving the time for your brain to digest. And we should give the time every day to digest. So I say, those who have a dog, you are blessed, because the dog takes you out for a walk. You can take to a green area. Just please don't take your phone with you. And I'm such a true believer of this attention restoration in the nature, that actually one of the sort of trainings or courses that I give to the companies, I have teamed up with Shirin Yoku, the forest bathing guide, and we do it
Yeah, that's a
together.
good one. Yeah, I read that
So we do
one.
it together. I sort of I do the theory and the practice part of getting to of people to understand the why and how their brain works and why this is important. And then the second part is actually we literally go into the park or forest or whatever and do this forest bathing. And if the companies want to have the sort of strategy or creative sessions, it's really very good to do it straight after, because people come back really in sort of this
Yeah,
different.
reset.
Yeah, they
Reset.
have reset this. They come into this really sort of soft, um, you know, state where they're more receptive to other people's ideas, and they sort of more willing to contribute their own. Yeah, really believe in
Love
that.
that.
So, and there's also a true art as well, not only attention restoration theory that talks about nature, but I think art galleries is also a great place to slow down. I know that in Canada, actually, even medical doctors prescribe this museum prescription but they prescribe it for the mental health, sort of for people who feel stressed, because again, the research show that if you go to an art gallery, your cortisol levels drop. You sort of, again, your brain goes into the sort of soft meditative state. It's quite similar to what happens in the nature. And the reason for that, and you don't have to be an art lover or appreciate art, but I think the reason for that is because, again, the stimuli is reduced. It's usually big open spaces with lots of white or lots of light. And then the objects are spaced apart, nothing's cramped or lost. We give everyone
Yes.
moves kind
There's
of
breathing
slowly.
space, right?
Yeah, there is breathing space everywhere. People move slowly, they talk softly. There's almost no sound or very soft sounds. So, and it's quite a novel experience as well for us because it's not something we experience every single day. And obviously we know that novel experiences are also good for the creativity. So this is when you eat and consume, some of the experiences need to be novel, something new. So when you digest and you go into this state, where you can digest and give time for your brain to do its magic, then those novel dots can join and come into something brand new and not
Love
seen.
that. So this is really the soil, right? How do you make the soil for creativity to start happening, right?
Yeah.
For ideas to
And
emerge.
just one more thing that, from the sort of this digital well-being in practice, people say if you could give one tip, just one tip, there's so
Right.
many things we could do, but one tip. So I would say definitely protect your sleep and the hours just before you sleep and just after you wake up. Because I think the morning hours is also how you're going to set your day. If you don't have the phone right next to you, you can then go into this. So what's waiting for me today? What do I want to do? How do I want this day to turn out? Rather than being sucked into someone else's agenda or the world news or whatever it may be that is on your phone, which that means taking the phone out of the bedroom. It's such a simple thing to do, but it does have really a profound impact. I have done it myself many years ago, and the positive thing for me that was happened, I finally have time to read books. Because before I used to say, I don't have time. When do people find time? I don't have time. But just
Right.
because on my bedside table there is not a phone but a book, I pick that up instead when I start feeling, oh, where should I go? Book. I go to the book, and that allows you to go deep. So I think also we're talking about the digital tools and the internet and the AI and getting the information. I think it's very, very useful as a research tool to figuring what's up, but it only allows us to go on the surface. It does not allow us to go deep. To go deep, you really need to set aside the time to get the focus, to really immerse yourself into the topic. And I think for creativity, you need both. You need to know as much as is possible what's out there, but also you need to go deep into the sum of the topics to be able to make those connections and create. So I would
Love
not
that.
rely just on AI tools, saying the AI tools will do everything for me. They'll do a lot. I think it's a great research tool and a great sort of draft tool. But for real creativity to happen, you need to be able to go deep as well and understand the problem you're solving quite in depth. So for
Right.
that, you need to carve out time in your day. You need to give the digest time, breathing time, and actually focus time as well. So focus time, I think all of us should at least an hour and a half a day, switch everything off and just go into the topic that we said we're going to go to. Whether it's prepare a presentation or a pitch or I don't know, write down 100 ways you could solve our problem, but everything else needs to be silenced so you can really go deep into that.
Yes. Love that. Really, thank you so much, Lena. You gave such a it's very interesting that it's like research based, like a
Yes.
lot of these things that you shared, like I definitely practice and absolutely with you on the power of nature, of the forest, how it can disconnect you and bring you back with very fresh ideas. And I'm also with you very much on the fact that if you give this focus time, right, that it doesn't need to be like productive hour every hour of the day. It's actually there's kind of preparing yourself, some rituals that you need to prepare yourself to come to that focus time.
Mm.
And then you just dive in and resurface, right? Fully on, and then you can kind of continue your day in other modes. So really very, very interesting the way you
Interesting you
paint
mentioned
it.
rituals actually, and sort of all the productivity research. Rituals have a big place actually because it
Mm-hmm.
is a sign again for our brain that this is what we're gonna do now. Prepare. So for
Yeah.
people, it might be a coffee or some sort of some like the same sort of focus music. But when it comes to music, I always say just make sure that it is familiar tune and no lyrics, because if we start listening to lyrics, part of our attention goes into the lyrics, and you could put that onto your
That's
task
nice.
at hand. And it's great to hear that you practice a lot of that. A lot of the things we know intuitively,
Mm-hmm.
but we do not do it. And it is, I say the curse of the human nature that we know a lot of things, but we don't do them.
Yes, of
And,
course.
if we did all what we knew, that, no one would eat rubbish food or smoke or do other things that are not good
Right.
for us. And I think this sort of takes me then to the topic, to the question of the purpose and the why. So if you know the reasons you want to do that, and you really spend time to thinking of your why, I think the why is the bridge between the I know and I do. You know your why, and that why needs to be pretty strong and usually connected with the values, with the sort of person I am.
Right.
So that is also important in any topic, whether it's creativity or healthy lifestyle or anything. Yeah.
Yes, great. Well, I think you gave today really a lot of takeaways, and you painted up beautifully like that process of what needs to be in place for creativity to emerge, for ideas to emerge. I think this is so easy to forget in this world of
Yeah.
run, and yes, always feeling almost being controlled by AI at this point, right? So
Yeah.
if we don't want to lose ourselves in it, but use it with purpose and in a focused manner, then you need to have that time outside.
As I say, if you're not going to take care of your attention, someone else will monetize it, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
if
yes,
you're not going to take care of your time, someone else will take it.
yes. Very well said.
If product is free, you're the product, right? So
Yes,
it's important to
exactly. So
remember
if
that.
we want to create and not to be created by AI and all the future inventions, then we need to take control. And that means having clarity and time for yourself, right?
Yeah. And that's what
Which gives
digital
you this
well-being is
clarity.
about, really. It's
Yeah.
not about throwing away the technology and going to live in the forest,
No,
the
right.
grid, but
Yes,
it's actually being quite it's a conscious use. It's
exactly. Love
understanding.
that.
And, at the moment, for example, I think it's the big tobacco moment, or what's happening at this very point of history of technologies, or junk food, where there was a time where tobacco was not thought to be harmful, right?
Right. At some
It
point,
was
it was
prescribed.
fashionable.
Yeah, it was prescribed to, a pregnant woman to calm the nerves
Oh, I
and
didn't know
things
that
like
one.
that.
Okay.
That was in States. And only when the research started coming out and saying, look, guys, this is really not good, we started getting educated about it. And then we sort of know. So I think with the technology use on our mental health and brain, I think we in sort of in the stage where all the research is pinpointing. And I think the society is saying, hang on, yeah, I think this is not how it should be. So it's
Right.
taking that agency back. It's taking and making
Exactly.
choices every single day, just making choices. What you want to
Exactly.
do. So again, I'm going to repeat ourselves. I think we have not lost our creativity or our attention or our ability to focus, but we definitely lost the environment where those things are possible. And then it's up to us to recreate that environment for us, because no one else will do it. Unfortunately, we
Right.
have to do it ourselves. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lina, for all the wisdom that you've shared. Really appreciate. I think this is going to be so useful to all our listeners and watchers on YouTube. So if somebody will want to learn more about what you do, I guess they can find you on your website. You'll find the links in our blog. We'll add where you can connect with Lina. So thank you so much. And
No, thank you for having me. And the wisdom is not mine. It's all the men and women who are scientists and who have spent years on researching these things. I'm just
but
a
you shared it in
microphone who
such a
translates it.
clear way. So
Thank you.
kudos for that. So
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much. Until the next time.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you.
Hi guys, I just wanted to send a quick reminder that we have just launched a new subscription, and if you are looking to unlock creativity in a variety of formats, get access to our digital tools and online creative sessions, check us out. I hope I'll see you inside.